The other day, on recommendation of one of my beta readers, I picked up the first book in the Pendergast detective series, let's call it. And that is Relic by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And I got it on Audible. It was narrated by David Kalachi, and I've got no complaints about the narration, even if the foreign accents were a little much. Anyways, it got sold to me as this like horror mystery detective story that really impressed my beta reader. They thought that it could really help me with my series because I write cyberpunk detective stuff. So I picked it up, I read it, I studied it. I've read plenty of bad books in my day. I went through Twilight just fine. And I gotta be real with you, Pendergast #1, probably gonna alienate some people here. It was pretty mid. It really was not very good in my opinion. Every good mystery is structured and introduced around a contradiction, right? And that's my personal belief. I think it will play out as you compare it to every other mystery you find. The detective, and thus the reader, gets two or more facts that are clearly true, but it doesn't seem like they can both be true. And in the case of Relic, which the story takes place basically in the belly of the New York City Natural History Museum and the research department and stuff, as people are getting killed. And the police start looking into it, and they quickly determine, well, the way these people were killed, based on the blood splatters and the crack of the skull and this, that, and the other thing, it would require more force than a human can produce. So what, a giant cat got into the museum is their first thought? And that's supposed to be the contradiction, is like, how is a person doing this? Oh, it's the Umbun curse, because there's this huge supernatural, like, they raided the Amazon for myths and legends and brought back this cursed figurine. There's supposed to be this misdirection going on, where you're trying to figure out how a person could be doing it, and then, oh, dramatic reveal, it's a dinosaur. But there's never really at any point a credible belief that it's a person. Like, there really is no explanation. Like, as soon as you're told that there are bite marks in the brain and it tested positive for saliva, and then you get told the hypothalamus is missing, right then there is no longer a reasonable explanation of this being a person behind the mystery. And yet everybody acts like it's still a person. It's just this glaring disconnect between what you, as a reasonably savvy reader, are putting together with the facts available, compared to what every single character in the book is just deluded about. And they keep this up until about halfway through, when, like, oh, the brilliant female researcher puts together, she gets the DNA, and they're finding these trace things. And okay. The DNA stuff is paced well, I'll say, where they get these samples and they're corrupted and they can't make sense of it. For the record, this takes place, a couple of decades ago at this point. When the Human Genome Project was still ongoing, wasn't completed, and they actually make a point. They'll tell you explicitly that it's like during the human genome process, when the only complete DNA on record is E. coli. So that justifies a lot of the structure of how they're getting clues about what the monster is, because they do get DNA from the monster, and they're trying to figure out what it is, what it can do, what it's motivated by based on the DNA, which is a clever investigation. And it's kind of scientific, and that's cool, and that was fine, but that's not a mystery plot. And then the whole thing becomes incredibly reliant on basically just the problem of, like, they don't have a gun big enough to kill it. There's some misdirection about, like, oh, the top brass at the museum were covering missing person cases up. They swept things under the rug, and okay, they get some karmic justice when the monster kills them. It didn't really play into a mystery. It just got to the point where, like, oh, can they put it together before the monster attacks? It felt more like Jurassic Park than a mystery novel. It devolved, I would say, into a monster shoot 'em up, and not a particularly good one at that. And it ended up sprawling to a cast of characters too large for these authors to handle, in my opinion. They really didn't know what to do with people, and you could see that, like, when the museum directors are drinking in an office, like, that's supposed to be a full plot line where the monster comes and gets them, but the monster is also in the basement. Okay, so maybe you think there's multiple monsters. Maybe there's a breeding population or something. No, it's just one. It was written weird. And apparently this monster just knows all the chutes and ladders to get around like freaking Scooby-Doo. There's multiple chapters about the mayor trying to escape through the sewers as it's slowly flooding. And, you know, it's paced like the textbook would pace it, where, you know, they're being chased and the map doesn't work and they lose their radio, they lose their flashlight, it's the rain is pouring in, it's coming up to their chest, people are getting hypothermia, one person slips and drowns. But it doesn't really come to anything. The monster can't get to them. And it was like multiple chapters just for the explanation of who finds some of the bodies to tie up some of the other questions that really could have just been cut. Like, the book could have been considerably shorter at no loss. Yeah, honestly, a lot of the book could have probably been shortened. All the tension in the climax literally just came down to it's a large scaled creature that they're trying to shoot to death, and they don't have big enough bullets. That's just very unimpressive to me. Honestly, I probably would have enjoyed the book more if the people stuck in the exhibit when the power goes out and the doors lock basically just said, it's an animal, I'm a man. Like, we're literally surrounded by cavemen exhibits of how our ancestors slew these things with sticks and stones. I'm gonna go kill it. And just like a 15-man posse with stone axes descending on this thing, I think would have actually been a lot more satisfying. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just because I just wasn't satisfied about the artificial tension of, oh, he shoots and he hits here and he misses and he shoots the wrist or the leg or the hind or bounces off his skull, and then, oh my god, he got a shot through the eye socket. It's like, it's just so fabricated by the whims of the author that I just didn't care. So, to sum up at this point, I'm not going to continue the Pendergast series. Maybe it gets better. Maybe some big fans are going to come in here and tell me I'm wrong and stupid and I gotta give it more of a chance. I call that Stockholm Syndrome. Obviously, authors are going to improve the more they write, so it's only natural that for a contained series, unlike the epic fantasies you'll get, that book over book, it's expected to get better because the author is getting better because they're studying more, they're researching more, they have more practice, they have more feedback, they've seen what audiences have latched onto, they are exploring new ideas and refining old ones. Clearly, a series like this will get better the deeper you get into it. There are other fucking books out there for me to read. I found Relic to be very mid. I don't recommend it. So, there's my opinion on that. I hope that gives you some foundation as I continue reading books and reviewing books and sharing them with you. I'm not going to just talk up everything I read as the greatest thing ever. I'm going to make content even out of the bad books. I go, oh, that was kind of a waste of an Audible credit. So, yeah. Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know in the comments. Drop me a like. Tell your friends. Share. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Usual YouTuber stuff. Trying to find some females to follow this channel, by the way. According to Google Analytics, this is quite the gentleman's club. It's 100% of my audience is male, which means I'm missing half the population out there, but maybe I need to lean into it. What can I say? Till next time, cheers.